Hey Faith family, welcome to the Beyond Sunday podcast at Calvary Bible, where we go beyond the Sunday sermon to explore some rabbit holes and to bring some biblical truths to the surface. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. All right, Calvary Bible, thanks for joining us here on episode number 1, second time. That's how we do it. All right, so we call it episode 1 because this is the first kind of like real episode. The last one was just kind of an introduction. What are we trying to accomplish through this podcast? And now we're actually going to get into, as best we can, some kind of a rhythm and a routine every week, taking the sermon from Sunday and taking it a little further. What's it look like to be God's people beyond Sunday? So yesterday, Randy, we were in Psalm 52. And one of the things that was striking to me was that there's no way we would sing a song like this on a Sunday morning. It's like, I can't imagine singing this kind of a song. All of our songs, which, I mean, to the credit of all of our music team, has been really solid, I think, over the years. Just the lyrical depth, the theology, that's sound. But when you start off a song like Psalm 52 with, why do you boast of evil, O mighty man? The steadfast love of God endures all day. Your tongue plots destruction. Like a sharp razor, you worker of deceit. I mean, that's just, I can't imagine singing a song like that, but they were doing it.
Yeah, they were doing it because you can imagine what happens to a congregation that believes that this is really true about evil and wicked people in the world. Mm-hmm. Now, they all see it. I think everybody encounters it, but something significant happens when you sing like that. So a congregation's faith in the kingdom of God, faith in the goodness of God, faith in the justice of God, that congregation's faith is bolstered if they are thinking seriously about this is what wicked people are like. So I would say that it's good for a congregation to sing a song with that type of focus because it keeps the distinction between the saints and the non-saints very, very clear. Mm-hmm. So it is odd. I mean, to sing this and address the song to the wicked is odd.
Yeah, well, and I can imagine living in a world where the opposition is clear and it's evident. So it would almost be an encouraging song to sing, just to be reminded that, yes, those, the evil mighty man out there does have a presence in this world, but God will sustain me. And actually, as I was reading through it again, I was just reminded actually of Isaiah 33, which I covered a few weeks back, and just the stability of our times. God, now in that context, this is a couple centuries later with, Assyria being this evil presence that would have struck fear in anybody. But just that idea that, yes, the evil presence is there, but God he's going to stabilize us. He's one who we can trust, and he's at work. So anyway, just to remind everybody, you are more than welcome to email us questions at podcast@cbcmj.com. Our goal is to get these questions in as early as possible. So during the sermon even, Randy will assume that you are probably shopping online or something like that, but yes, I'll assume that you're emailing questions to us. Again, podcast@cbcmj.com. And then we're shooting this early in the week so that it can get out to you Tuesday or Wednesday at the latest, and we'll get into a groove there. But again, I think one of these things that we're trying to accomplish through this is just the opportunity to listen differently. And as you're sitting there going through a sermon with your preacher, you have that opportunity to follow up with a question, and we can address it as the podcast goes on.
Yeah, and the Beyond Sunday part, remember, if you look at verses 1 to 4, if you're reviewing Psalm 52 and you look at verses 1 to 4, all of the your, you, it's all aimed at the wicked person. In this case, remember verse 1, the mighty person, the strong one who has the upper hand, who's boasting in evil.
Yeah.
So the key for Beyond Sunday, I think, is to make sure all of us in the faith family we are not that person. That's the key. So today, when you're going about your day, make sure that what is described in verses 1-4, make sure that's not you. That's the key, I think, so far at the beginning of this, so that verse 5, in other words, so that God doesn't have to judge you.
Right. And so your points, you broke this psalm down into 3 stanzas, which I thought was a good way to approach it, because it is a song. And that's, to the choir master.
Mm-hmm.
So this is off the cuff here a little bit, but you say we're singing to evil people. Are they really singing this to the wicked person? Or is this just a part of the lyrics? Because I'm thinking, if I'm singing a song to somebody that is like this, they're not actually listening. I'm singing this in the company or presence of the righteous or the godly.
Yeah, especially at the end of the psalm. This is happening in the presence of the godly at the end of verse 9. So what you have here is the image of a congregation of God's people singing the first stanza, knowing that they're addressing the evil that's in the world.
Yeah.
It's a confidence builder, but it's also a clear mark of separation. This is you. You're like this. Implication. We're different. We're worshiping God. We don't speak like this.
Yeah, right. I think that's key to understanding when you say the implication, or it's implied that there is a distinct mark between the unrighteous and the righteous, the evil and the good. So that helps.
Yeah, and you may not remember,
Probably
but
not.
I did say, though, that you can imagine what it's like to try to sing those opening verses, and yet I'm singing it and my conscience pricks me and says, I'm guilty of this. So all of a sudden, while I'm singing, I think that's why the Psalms are so powerful, is these are songs meant to be sung, prayers meant to be prayed, and I can't pray them if it's not true. I can't sing it if it's not true. I should not be caught in worship in an insincere moment. And for me, of course, it was a matter of looking at this and saying, you love, verse 4, you love all words that devour. I don't love that at all. I don't want any part of that. So it's one of those events where the whole church sings this, but if we're going to sing it sincerely, that can't be us.
Right. Yeah. Goodness, I hope not. All right, good. So a couple of thoughts that were coming to my mind as a result of this, as the result of the sermon yesterday, but just talking about ways that our tongue could be described that way, as a sharp razor, a tongue that plots destruction. And you brought up the different kind of ways that we speak, and I think you said, how do you phrase it? Or do we even talk on the phone anymore, or do we just text? So,
especially the younger ones.
Yeah, which I think is true, but it's still communicating. So whether it's speech verbally or through our fingers or thumbs, social media, text messages, emails. You referenced that yesterday, and how are some of those ways that we need to be at least on guard with that kind of communication?
So the first thing that struck me was, in the normal course of conversation, emotions are sort of low, out of the picture. They really don't factor what we're saying. So what I was thinking about yesterday, and still, when you talk about, okay, put this into practice this week, beyond Sunday, what I think we need to do is watch what happens to emails, text, and what was the other one? Just anytime you're on social media, just watch what happens to the communication when emotions start to get high. Of course, anger is the one that's would be one that's obvious. I mean, when I'm angry, that's the time to watch. How's my tongue? Am I cutting someone down because of anger? Or I'm just really uptight about something. I'm not angry. I'm just sort of confused about it or whatever. But the emotions get high. So I think with all of the communication, the emails, texting, when you're on social media, anything, our speech. Hey, this week is a great time to assess: are we cutting people down, or are we giving them life. I forget, Toby Mac or someone sang a song, Speak Life. I think that's one of his songs.
Yeah.
Are we speaking life, or are you glad I knew that?
I'm impressed, yeah.
Either we're speaking life, or according to the psalmist, and remember the observation that he's watching over and over again, of course, is that, people are using their speech in a way that cuts others to pieces, literally. So. So the type of communication that you were listing there, that I listed yesterday, just, beyond Sunday, what's our speech? Are we speaking life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and some of those verses in there are pretty, they seem pretty harsh. Like, I can't imagine my tongue plotting destruction, or my tongue like a sharp razor, or what's the other one here? Lying more than speaking what is right. Like, that's kind of crazy, but But you do see it, I think, in some ways. And one of the questions I had for you here actually was, do you have any examples, any present day examples that came to your mind of that kind of evil in the world that we live in? Like, where do we see that? And yeah, I'll let that there. I don't want to get in trouble.
And actually when you talk about social media, for instance, start at the back of the list and talk about social media itself. One of the things that we've been watching throughout the past several months, especially during COVID, but before that even, is creeping into the dialogue is more and more animosity. I am amazed, and I don't look at it a lot, but the replies that come to virtually any type of important statement, the replies are vicious, certainly unfiltered, and we all know that you can put things on social media probably that you would not say face to face. And you've talked about that, I think, before. So I think the biggest example is the air that we breathe right now is filled with this type of animosity. And this is the way people are talking to each other, so that we're just tearing people up. The church sadly has been in the thick of it as well. And so that's why we had that series not that long ago about, the pollutants, the primary pollutants in the air, because the church is breathing this air. And all we're watching animosity. So I see this happening a lot. Yeah. Now, the lying more than, lying in, right. In verse 3, lying more than speaking what is right. The only person that's going to do that regularly is a person that's trying to spin a particular reality just for their own good. So it is simply it's a selfish preservation is what it is. Okay. If any of us, if any of us have been tempted to lie or actually out and out lied, we did it because the story that we spun was safer than the truth. We thought that's what we thought. So you can imagine an entire world who does not have the Spirit of God in their hearts thinking, okay, I have to do what's best for me. And right now, the best thing to do is and if you've ever watched a sitcom, for instance, when you watch sitcoms, they lie all the time, and it always comes back to bite them. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know how many times I've said to Michelle, Frasier is a great example. I would say, I don't know if you guys remember this, but I would say, if he would have just said the truth to that person, he'd have been fine. Oh, yeah. But no, the story goes on and bites him. So Everybody Loves Raymond is one of my favorites. Yeah. It's the same thing. Yeah. All the time. He's constantly getting in trouble because he just won't come clean. Yeah. So. Yep. And his wife catches him in the lie. Sadly. To go back a couple minutes, though, I think you're saying that we see it on social media, and I think it's so unfortunate that the church is getting caught up in that rather than being different. So we ought to be a people that is, handles ourselves differently, not just in our public life, but also our private or social media presence life, which I have very little of, but which is just a good guard for me. But we've got to, I don't know, I just think in any of those kind of situations, just to give people the benefit of the doubt too. Yeah. And not let those emotions escalate, and say, well, whatever I'm reading potentially in an email, let's say, if it could be read this way and it could be read another way. Exactly. I want to give that person the benefit of the doubt
And a lot of times there are people at church, so why shouldn't I give them the benefit of the doubt? And then it helps me to not, escalate, get frustrated, angry, and respond in a way that just takes it to another level.
Above all people, we should be the folks who extend mercy, period.
Yeah.
Especially in a text like this, where twice the steadfast love of God endures all day, or a little bit further on, I trust in the steadfast love of God forever. And if I do, I should be, of all people, I should be merciful to others. Yeah. I should extend that old word, loving kindness. Mm-hmm. Plus, I should be a spirit-controlled person with the way in which I speak.
Yeah.
By the way, one of the things that's hurt the church lately, of course, is we've had more opportunity to be judgmental of all kinds of things. And so that self-righteous tendency to make a judgment call on other people, that just continues to raise its ugly head in all of us. And COVID in particular has given us a field day to do just that.
Yeah.
That's why churches all over the United States have experienced friction like no other time. Mm-hmm. Just because of the tendency.
Yeah, no, that's good. Well, anyway, that was a question I had, just some present day examples. And I think that was helpful. So let's wrap up here just with the last couple of verses, verses 8 and 9. Let me read them quick, because I think they stood out to me. But I am like a green olive tree in the house of God. I trust in the steadfast love of God forever and ever. I will thank you forever because you have done it. I will wait for your name, for it is good in the presence of the godly. And so those verses, I think, just that imagery, I am like a green olive tree. That's a simile, right? Which is classic psalm poetry kind of stuff. When I was hearing that yesterday, I was just curious about, is there any Garden of Eden imagery going on there? We've got a tree in the house of God, which takes me back to the tree of life in the garden. Any of that happening?
I like the instinct of trying to go back earlier in the canon.
But?
Really no but. I would say while you're trekking backwards all the way to Genesis, if you're starting at Psalm 52 and you move your way back, Jonathan's taking us all the way back to Genesis. Stop along the way at Psalm 1 is what I would say. And so what I should have said yesterday,
actually, that crossed my mind.
I should have said, and I don't remember if I did, but I should have said, Psalm 1, the Psalter opens with verse 3. He is like a tree planted by streams of water that yields its fruit in its season, and its leaf does not wither. And then in all that he does, he prospers.
Yep.
And then the very next line, the wicked are not like that. Mm-hmm. So once again, what I would say is this green olive tree imagery in the sanctuary is probably strongly taking us back, echo back to Psalm 1.
Yeah.
Psalm 1:3.
And again, there's that sharp contrast between the righteous and the wicked there in Psalm 1. And, we definitely want to be the green olive tree, which I think came across pretty clear. We're either that, or if we're in the church on Sunday, we're faking it. We're an artificial tree, and that's a good warning to heed too. And then just finally in those verses, I found it really interesting that we've got kind of three things answered, and so my analytical mind goes to when, why, and where. And so he says, I trust in the steadfast love of God forever and ever. So when do we do this as God's people?
Always.
All the time. We thank you, or I will thank you forever. Why? Because you've done it. And then finally, I will wait for your name in the presence of the godly. And so that's where it's one of the places where we do that when we're in the presence of God's people. And so we do it all the time because God's done it. He's good, and we do it together.
Yeah, and I think one of the great things about being together every Sunday is you got a group of people saying these things to each other, saying these things to God, and it does help affirm our faith. We are a unique group in this world. Mm-hmm. And Psalm 52, like so many other places in Scripture, makes that very, very clear. I'm glad we get to do it.
Yeah. All right. That should cover Psalm 52. Thanks for chatting.
My privilege.
All right. Hopefully it's helpful. See ya. Thanks again for joining us on today's episode. And remember, our Sunday sermons are meant to lead us to a life of worship beyond Sunday.